Hello goat lovers, Crystal here with Blue Cactus Dairy Goats, and today is a very exciting day. It is the day before kidding season. So if you're new to the channel, last October we bred 22 does to 6 bucks, and after 5 months of waiting, the first of 20 due dates is tomorrow. So 20 does are going to be giving birth in the next 3 weeks. This kidding season is the biggest season that we have ever had, and this video is the first video in a new playlist documenting what we do as we go from 20 pregnant goats to 20 does in milk with 40 plus kids on the ground. When it comes time for the does to kid, they are going to need their own birthing stall, somewhere dry, safe, and separate from the rest of the does. And you're also going to make sure you give them feed, water, and minerals in their stall. Next thing you're going to need is a birthing bucket. In this birthing bucket, I have everything that I'm going to need to get these kids on the ground. So all I got to do is grab my bucket and I'm ready. Now we have a vet that we like and use, but if something goes wrong, by the time I call my vet and she gets out here, it could be too late. So it's on me to be ready. Alright, so what should you have in your birthing bucket? For starters, I always have probios. Now probios are live, viable microorganisms. It just keeps their rumen moving properly and functioning as it should, because in any stressful moment, you know, their rumen can start getting whacked out. So probios. Jumpstart. This is one of my favorite things. Always have it on hand and a must-have for your bucket. Now Jumpstart is kind of like probios. It has the live, viable microorganisms in it. However, it also has a lot of vitamins to give them energy. Vitamin A, vitamin B. So it'll give them really good energy. So if you have a weak kid, you can give them Jumpstart, or even if the mama had a super hard labor, anything like that where she could use those extra vitamins and that energy, Jumpstart's your guy. Selenium. This is something we give to our herd every month. So if you ever see a kid and they look really weak on their feet, it's because they need selenium. They are deficient in selenium. You give them some of this and within a day they are walking pretty darn good on their feet. Selenium's a must. As far as vitamins, energy, stuff like that, we have these packets of Revitalite that you just put into their water bucket. It gives them electrolytes, gives them that extra boost, the energy, so these are really good to have on hand. Let's see. This here is a lamb puller. My bags are going to blow away here. Now, I have only needed this twice ever, because in most cases I can get in there without having to use the lamb puller if you do have to assist, and I can position the kids and get them out. If you can't, this thing is a must-have. And the first time I needed it, I didn't have it. So my husband had to make a noose out of some twine before we could get the kids out, and I really wish I would have had this. Second time I've had to use it, was on one of Lacey's kids a long time ago, and I would not have been able to get that kid out had I not had this. So it's not something you have to use all the time. Again, in a lot of cases you can position those kids without having to use this and pull them out. But if you need it, it's a lifesaver. So we always have that. A hook. If you do have to assist, your goat is not going to just stand there still for you while you're positioning kids around. It's very painful for them. So if you don't have somebody, you know, that could hold the goat for you or anything like that, a hook is going to be definitely your best friend. Always have lots and lots of gloves, latex free. If you need a syringe, a little nose sucky. I've never ever used this. It's in my bucket, but I've never used it. In most cases, what I do is I just wipe their face off and get most of the mucus, but it is good for them to cough it out as well. It gives them that strength, it gets their lungs opening up. So it's not something I use, but if I ever needed it, if the kid was super weak, then I would definitely get in the mouth and try to suck out that mucus in the nose. All right, OB lube. Again, if you have to assist, you don't want to be super dry. It's very painful for them, so just always have lube. Let's see. So these things, oh, actually this I will keep in my bucket. It's just some surgical scissors and some iodine. Now, I cut the umbilical cords of the babies because what can happen if you don't, if it stays super long, they can lay in the dirt, and it's considered, it is an open wound, their umbilical cord. So they can get joint ill. It's called joint ill. It is very, very painful for them. Their joints literally swell up. They get a really high fever. We had one kid that happened to, and it was just not a pretty sight. It was awful. But anyway, so cut the umbilical cords and put iodine on it to keep any infection and dry it up as quick as possible. So now there's a couple items that I don't necessarily have to take out with me and keep it in the bucket while I'm with the doe that's in labor, but always have it on hand for just in case scenarios. So this is something I'd really only need for the first doe or something, because with me having so many does, I'm gonna have milk, I'm gonna have the colostrum. But if something were to happen to that first doe and I wasn't able to milk her out and the kids didn't have anything, I have formula. And this formula actually, it's awesome because it's formula, and it also has the colostrum that's added into it, which is very, very important for the little kids to get colostrum. So I have this, obviously a bottle and a nipple. These nipples are awesome because they just fit right on top of a bottle. So when we're training our kids, we don't have to switch nipples or anything, because these nipples also go on the lamb bar, which you guys will see later on when we're feeding them. But it's just a bucket, and it has these nipples all the way around it, so you can feed many kids out of this bucket at the same time. So have an antibiotic on hand. I use, my go-to is Biomycin 200. Penicillin is another really great one. This here is something I would only use if I had to actually go in and assist. I hardly ever use an antibiotic. It's like last resort. But either way, if I do have to go in and assist, my does get antibiotics. So that's good to have on hand. Vitamin B. This is injectable vitamin B, but if your goat is weak and just off, vitamin B is really, really beneficial for them. It perks their appetite up and so forth. So always have that. And Sulfamed. This is what we use for coccidia. So if you have weak kids, they're very, very susceptible to getting coccidia very early on. So this is something we have on hand, and it works awesome for coccidia. And of course, you're gonna need a needle and syringes. So I have a whole bunch of these always, but needles and syringes if you're gonna be giving an injection, pretty important. This year, I added a tube feeder. If a kid is weak and not gonna eat, I'm not gonna mess around this year. He's gonna get tube fed until he starts eating off of the bottle. So I have this on hand this year too. And of course, you're gonna need some old towels if you plan on cleaning the babies off or anything, which I assist with. So I got lots of old towels. Make sure you got water out there with you, and a light. So we gotta have a light to make sure we can see, because there are gonna be some evening labors. If you guys have this stuff on hand, you should be set. When a doe gets close to her due date, I start looking for signs of close labor and checking ligaments. When I feel the doe is ready, I'm gonna pull her into her own birthing stall so she can deliver her babies in a safe place. About 1 to 3 days after the doe kids, we move the kids into a separate stall and we begin to bottle feed them. Once they get the hang of the bottle feeding and the lamb bar, we then move them to a larger pen where they can run around and play all day. For the first 6 weeks, all of the milk gets fed to the kids. About 6 to 8 weeks old, all of the kids will go to their new homes and the cheese and soap making begins. We will make enough cheese and soap to last us for the whole year until we dry up our does and start breeding them, and then the whole process begins again. Now, we always get a lot of questions about the kidding process, and we plan on making as many videos as possible to document our kidding season and why we do the things we do. So stay tuned, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon.